Greetings, 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 greetings. I just spent 29 minutes figuring out why my camera wasn't working. Greetings, it's Hathor-Ra here, live for our Sunday chat. Now, I first want to say, when I choose to do something that is really meaningful to myself, something that is personal, something that is life-changing for myself and for the people tuning in, watching, observing, listening, something happens. And the universe is almost like, do you really practice what you preach? Do you really mean what you say? And today's topic is about spiritual hygiene. And when things go sideways, how do you practice? I practice spiritual hygiene. So today I am sharing spiritual hygiene using spiritual engineering. That was downloaded very, very early this morning, and just the flow of what to share, what to say, and things that's just on my heart. I went live maybe 2 minutes. I tried to go live about 2 minutes before, a minute and a half to 2 minutes before, and my system just went down. My camera was not working. Okay, so going live, and I'm not bad with technology, but I'm not as savvy as some people. Okay, so now I had to practice spiritual hygiene. So the interesting thing is I had to practice spiritual hygiene, and typically, I think in a situation like this, I would have probably in the past definitely given up. So the spiritual hygiene that I practiced was breath work. So now I have to go and share the link because now I'm live on YouTube. So I am going to share the link, get folks on. We're going to get some folks on. I had to take a couple of breaths to get myself together. This has never happened before where my camera just shut off. So it's very interesting that I didn't even choose the topic spiritual hygiene and spiritual engineering. This is what was downloaded to me as the topic for today, and practicing this in real time. So I'm just very, very grateful for the lessons that it's not even a lesson. It's really just practicing it. And because this is something I'm so passionate about, I was given now to practice it. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity to practice this. So now I could go ahead and share. Oh boy, this is very, very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. And yeah, I'm lost for words. It's like you really, really want something, or you're really passionate about something, and it's called Murphy's Law. Murphy's Law. You know, what can go wrong will go wrong. So just prepared. And I had to prepare practicing my own spiritual hygiene, my own uh, ways of handling myself to stay centered. So I took some deep breaths, and I actually asked myself, what do you need to do? What do you need to do? How do you need to do it? What do you need to do? How do you need to do it? And I just kept asking myself, instead of going in my head and telling myself, you're not tech savvy, you don't know what you're doing, you're a half an hour late, just cancel the whole thing. Because some of those thoughts were trying to come in, and I had to really go into myself and practice what I preach. And I had to take a deep breath, and I had to get centered and ask my higher self, what is it that you need to do now? So I had to actually reset some of my Chrome's permission. So don't ask me how I found that out. I just kept asking my higher self. And practicing spiritual hygiene for me is a part of my daily practice. So when Murphy Law kicks in, because Murphy Law will kick in, what goes wrong will probably go wrong or happen. What are my tools that I'm pulling from? So it's the self-talk and it's the breath that I used today in this moment, live. And I just had to really get centered and go to that higher place and ask my higher self, what is it? So a part of today is spiritual engineering. And what does that mean? What does that look like? What does that sound like? Spiritual engineering. This week was a heavy week. I had clients and family friends within my network who are experiencing mental health disturbances in a way where one was an attempt of ending their life and really in a dark place, and the other one was an actual died by suicide within my family friend network. So spiritual hygiene is actually what I had to practice this week to sustain and maintain my own way of how I process grief. Because while I have this personal thing happening in my life, how do I show up with my clients who are going through lots of mental health, PTSD, and everything like that? And practicing spiritual hygiene was number one. So the number one thing I do is I acknowledge those who came before me, who set the way of the knowledge, of the principles, of the laws, of the wisdom, so that I can be well. Yeah. So one of the practices I do is pouring libation. And I normally just have coconut and my libation here. And I just pour this libation. And the family did ask to keep it private, so I won't be saying any names out loud, but I am pouring this libation for those who came before me, those who came after me and who no longer here, those who gave their wisdom. I pour this libation for the land that I'm on. I am on Indigenous land in Alberta, Canada. It's Treaty 6 territory, and I pour this libation. And I pour this libation for those who have invested in me, poured into me, and who are no longer here. And as I pour this libation, I am standing on the backs of the knowledge that's been given to me. So some of the things I'm sharing, it's not according to Hathor-Ra. Okay, it is definitely knowledge that, whether I'm channeling or whether it's knowledge that's been given to me, that's what's going to be happening. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick recap. Spiritual hygiene. We brush our teeth, we wash our face, we wash our hair, we take care of our physical bodies, we take care of our teeth, we floss, we do all these things, see the smile, we hydrate our lips with some glossy gloss, and we make sure that we are presentable, we clean our nails. But what happens to our mind? Right? Some people, they do affirmations, some people do deep breathing, some people do positive self-talk. With their emotions, they are mindful of their energy that's flowing through them, that's in motion, and they follow. I have this energy chart here in my office. This is clinically proven map of consciousness by David Hopkins, right? So some people I know, sometimes they do this consciously, like with an actual visual, or sometimes they do it unconsciously. What am I thinking and feeling? Let me feel better, right? That's the emotions. But what happens to our spirit? How do we clear our spirit? How do we maintain cleanliness in our spirit? How do we design a daily routine to make sure our spirit is cleared, our energy field is cleared? Yeah. So I'm just going to share some things that I did as I processed such a heavy week of dealing with mental health and a lot of heaviness in my family, friends, and in my work. And when I sat and I thought about it, I said, I'm actually doing spiritual engineering. That's so spiritual hygiene is something I practice, but how I do it, what is the vehicle that I use to get there? And it's spiritual engineering. And spiritual engineering is very intentional design that is building the maintenance of my spirit. How am I maintaining the maintenance of my spirit? So what is the oil change for my spirit? What is changing the tire of my spirit? We in Alberta have very, very bad winters at times, if you want to call it bad, but we have like up to -30 weather, right? So we have to winterize our car. We have to change the filter, change the oil, change the spark plugs, get winter tires. And not all weather, but actually winter tires that has proper traction. So how do we take care of our spirit so then when we're entering a space where someone is violent, where we're entering a space of harshness, entering a space of war, entering a space of insults and racism and prejudice and sexism and ageism and ableism, when we are in this space, how are we showing up? And what is the vehicle that I'm using to get to the destination of wellness, spiritual wellness, right? So that is kind of what I'm just going to talk about. I'm not going to spend a lot of time today because I have things to do. We were supposed to start 30 minutes ago. Now, some of the core elements of spiritual engineering. So when I use spirit engineering, I look at spirituality, meaning my actual reality. I focus and be very intentional to stay in my spirit and actual reality. To me, that's spirituality. For me, is how conscious am I in my present reality in terms of my authenticity and my higher self. Sometimes I'm in low vibration, I'm human, I'm in survival mode, but how quickly can I get back to my higher self in the real time? And a part of that is reminding myself of who I am. I'm a spirit having a human experience. So I was spirit, and in Ifa, this is just my belief. Spirit, I became flesh. The flesh now is no longer living, and I go back to spirit. So I am this energy force. So a part of spiritual engineering is understanding some core elements, and that core elements is knowing and remembering who you are. And then once I know who I am, how am I shaping that? So in Ifa, one thing we have is Iwapele, which is character, developing your character. So who I am, I'm a spirit having a human experience. Then how am I shaping that? And that is shaping my character, not personality. That's a whole different character. Is how do I show up when I'm angry? How do I show up when I'm grieving? In this moment, a part of me is grieving, right? Because of the loss of family and friends, because of the heaviness with a couple of clients. Very close friend recently, I found out even less than 24 hours ago, is sick with a terminal illness and given days to survive. So right now, this is very active in my life. And I woke up this morning and I was planning to talk about something else, and Spirit's like, no, you have to talk about spiritual hygiene and how are you sustaining and maintaining your wellness as life is lifing. Yeah. So we have who I am, spirit having a human experience. And then how am I shaping that character? How do I show up when I'm angry? And I'm very mindful of my thoughts. I'm very mindful of my feelings. And I'm very mindful of my actions. And my thought, my feelings, and my actions has to match my spirit self, my higher self, which is love, which is courage, which is boldness, which is groundedness. And I'm ratchet too. If those of you who actually know me from before, they're like, nah. This is not Hathor-Ra. Hathor-Ra is a hothead, ready to go off the rails, ready to fight, men, women. I was ready, okay? But that personality, that energy, that survival character that I've developed, or I would say survival mode, not a character, but survival mode that I've developed, was for the fight or flight and survival because of unhealed emotions and traumas. So I had to remember who I am, develop my character. Now I'm going to tell myself the truth of how I'm showing up and how I want to show up so that I'm aligned. So my mind, body, spirit, and emotions are aligned. So who am I? Spirit having a human experience. How do I shape that? Through character. How do I show up in the storm? How can I find the blessing in the wound? How can I develop that? Me personally, I'm going to share. I pour libation. Right behind this camera is my altar. I do deep breath work. I only surround myself around colors, and people. I'm very mindful of my thoughts. My thoughts have to match my spirit body. My spirit body has a whole consciousness of what it likes to eat, how it likes to dress, how it likes to speak, who it wants to be around, how it wants to show up, what color I want to put in the hair, all of these different things. And so I'm very mindful that my thoughts are aligned with my higher self, my intuitive self, how I'm feeling the truth inside of me. And once I tell my truth of how I'm showing up, like I said, I was very hothead, I was ratchet, and things like that, I realized that is not me. And so as I went from this ratchet, angry, filled with PTSD, filled with all sorts of things, to this person that is now grounded in love and light. So things still happen, like my live stream not working at the last second, Murphy's Law, right? Even with that, I did not lose myself. I did not get ungrounded. I did not get all chaotic and confusion. I did make a couple calls to say, hey, what's your experience with StreamYard? What's your experience with YouTube? So I did make 2 calls to people who I know who kind of does these type of things. And I stayed grounded. And I took a breath and I said, okay, your thoughts need to align with your higher self. So if you were in your higher self, what would you be thinking? Oh, you would be clicking on Chromes. Oh, I clicked on Chromes. Oh, what would you be thinking, feeling, and doing? You would be updating your Chromes. Okay, you update your Chromes. And that's how I was guided. Another part of spiritual hygiene, and I'm just touching. Originally, I was going to go deep. This is just very light. I'm going to revisit this next week, is integrity. So practicing some of the principles of Ma'at is balance, truth, reciprocity, but also a part of character, a part of the principles that I practice. I also look at the character I am and how I can practice that. So how can I practice truth? How can I practice reciprocity? And that is being in integrity. In integrity. And integrity is doing the right thing when people are looking, when people are not watching. Sorry. Integrity is doing the right thing when people are not watching. So I'm very mindful of my emotions. I'm mindful of my reactions. I'm mindful of the environment, reading the room. I'm mindful of the relationships that I am in. And are these relationships serving me? Am I serving them? Going into spaces and places of serving, not what I can take, but how can I pour? How can I give? How can I be love? How can I be patient? How can I be compassion? How can I be a sounding board? How can I be trusting? Because let me tell you something. If you can't be those things, especially to yourself, you can't give it to others. We can't give what we don't have. So part of spiritual hygiene is checking my emotions, checking my thoughts, checking my feelings, checking my actions, my character, my environment. Is my place clear up or clean up? Right now, it's kind of a little bit of a mess because I had everything. I had my coffee ready, with some oat milk. I had my alkaline water ready. I had my herbal, and then, everything went chaotic, right? So I'm there, burning my sage, and I didn't even light my candle yet to see how I was just trying to focus on the solution. So right now, everything is kind of not as neat, but typically for me to take care of my spirit like a best friend, my spirit is who I truly am. Before I became flesh, even as flesh, it's my spirit that introduces myself when I enter a room about 6 to 8 seconds before my physical body. So it's my spirit that is the living truth. So how do I sustain, maintain that, and have a relationship with that? And I got to check my emotions. I got to check my environment. I got to check my thinking. And I have to check how I respond to life. And so the spiritual hygiene is the breath work. The spiritual hygiene is being conscious of what I'm being conscious of. Spiritual hygiene is about sound, what we listen to, because our spirit is an energy force. And if everything is energy, if what I drink, all the alkaline water here, if this is energy, right, then that has to nourish my spirit. Right? It nourishes my body, but this also has an energetic frequency. So the music does something to my physical body, but it does something to my spirit body too. My thoughts do something to my physical body. It makes me feel happy or sad or whatever the emotions, but it also impacts my spirit. My words my actions, what I wear. Right now, may I wear something like I got from Morocco. A client, actually a volunteer, got this for me from Morocco. So I feel very good. It was given to me with love, and the colors. So I know my body feels good in it and it's nice and loose. It's a long dress, but I know my spirit is actually nourished with the colors and the reminder of the person that gave it to me and how she is invested in me and the love she has. So spiritual hygiene is not so much of, oh, I need to go to ayahuasca or I need to go hiking, or it's not an external thing. Spiritual hygiene is an internal thing. How am I choosing to show up that's aligned with my inner God? If you want to say that. How are my thoughts aligned with my inner God? How are my inside voice? Because sometimes I be cussing people out and I said, you know what, delete. Let me show some compassion right now. You know, because I have a lot of clients and I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I'm just like, this is first world problems, really. Right? Oh, you have to sell your trailer, your camping trailer. Okay, well, you know. And so I realized, you know, Hathor-Ra, stop. You know, that is not, those thoughts are not aligned with your higher self. Resting is very important. And resting, sleep is good. Like sleep is good, but being still. Our spirit is a non-physical part of us. And if I am busy doing physical things, that means I'm not hearing and feeling from my spirit. Yeah. So being still is very, very, very vital to spiritual hygiene. And being still. So sometimes I am at work and I'm doing things, or I'm home doing things and I'm cooking, but my mind is present. Anxiety is thoughts and worries of the next 5 seconds. Depression is worries and thoughts of the last 5 seconds. So when I'm present here and now, that's when I am aligned with my spirit. That's when I'm rested and I'm still. That's what I had to do to figure out how to get my camera to fix. Literally. And instead of getting angry that, oh my gosh, how is this going to look? And all sorts of things, I started to tell myself, I said, stop. You are in the future right now. Get back to your spirit, get back to your center. If you're going to talk about spiritual hygiene, you better practice spiritual hygiene right now. And so it is. And so it happened. And so spiritual hygiene is learning how to be still in the here and now. Right here, right now. I'm not thinking about, what do I have to do? I have to do cooking. I'm cooking some dinner. I'm not thinking about none of that. Whatever I have to do later on today. I am about the here and now. Here and now allows my ego, edging God out. So edging my God force out, subsiding, lowering my ego and getting still. Then I let my God self come and do the thinking, the feeling, and the doing for me. Think, feel, do. That's the formula of manifestation, which is, we'll get to that another day. We're going to have someone to talk deeply about that. One of my master teachers, we're going to have him on to talk about that. And once I allow my ego to subside, that tells myself a lot of stories, and then allow my spirit to be the thinking, the feeling, and the doing, the actions, all of a sudden, there's grace in your life. All of a sudden, you're at the right place at the right time with the right people. All of a sudden, there's this ease. All of a sudden, time appears to seize. You start to get things done in very little time. Once I allow my spirit to be nourished with rest, with breath work, with even if you, this is myrrh, I was burning this earlier, right? Whether it's sage or myrrh, just the aroma. Remembering who I am. I'm an energy being first. Just remember, when people remember your name, how do you feel? When people remember where they met you, what you wore, how do you feel? You feel really good. So when we remember our spirit and that we have a spirit body, it infuses, it increases the serotonin, the dopamine, everything. So now the last thing I want to talk about when it comes to spiritual hygiene is protecting your spirit in terms of any energy leakage or protecting your peace. And there's different ways that you can do that. One of the things that I was reminded of recently, I used to practice this all the time, is just pretend I'm in an egg. And in this egg is this bright white light, maybe a little bit of yellow light, sunlight, just surrounding me. And I'm walking around with this light. The other one is zipping my meridian. So I start right from the front and I zip all the way back. And if you can't go all the way back, you go back and you connect your next hand here, and then you zip it down right to your caucus. So you zip yourself in, and then you go after you do your meditations and whatever you do in the morning. So a part of spiritual is it's your friend, it's who you are. So you're gonna protect that. So it's like when you wash a car, you're not going to drive into the mud. You're going to protect the car wash because you just wash your car. When you wash your hair, you're not going to all of a sudden allow, your hair to get all wet and damaged. If you just, did your hair in the rain, you're going to protect it. So part of spiritual hygiene is learning how to protect your energy. So today I'm just keeping it very simple. Just sharing literally what I had to do today. I did not go into anything deep. I probably will practice that next week. Practice what I did in terms of the structure. I'm going to do some practicing, and then I think I'm going to re-deliver this maybe next week or another week. Because this week was a whole thing I had planned, but that's okay. I had to release that, and I'm just sharing what I had to do. So today I took a breath. I stilled my mind. I put my mind at rest because my mind was starting to panic and go into worry. I took a breath. I stilled my mind. I remembered that I'm a spirit having a human experience, and I had to ask my spirit what to do with this damn computer. Okay, what to do? Because I don't know. My human body don't know. My ego, I don't know, but you know, because you're infinite knowledge. And then I was guided on what to do to fix the camera. Yeah. And then after that, taking a breath, I did my libation. You don't have to do libation. You drinking water is libation for you, right? You don't have to do that. I'm just sharing what I did. I also had some incense burning earlier, and I had some different things that I burned as I did. And then I'll always have my crystals around. These are things that have energy. These are things that have a spiritual body and physical. So we're seeing these different crystals that I have, and they might be called amethyst or smoky quartz in its physical element, but it has a spiritual energetic frequency that my spirit also benefits from. Yeah. And the major thing, and I know I said this already, is the breath work, because spirit My spirit is only active in the here and now. My spirit is not present when I'm having thoughts of the future, anxiety, or thoughts of the past, regret, depression. My spirit does not know those things. Spirit only knows here and now. So resting my mind, my body, my soul, everything, just resting so that my spirit can do the thinking, the feeling, and the doing. And to take care of my spirit, I had to pour the like a libation, use my incense and things like that. So I will share more of definitions. I wanted to get into definitions of spirituality, spirit. I wanted to get into definitions of engineering. I wanted to get into definitions of hygiene and tie it together. But spirit did not want that. Spirit wanted me to show how in real time, how I'm practicing what I preach. If this was a year ago, I would have just canceled the whole thing and not even go live. Yeah. So I hope that this was nourishing. I hope you picked up something from this. I hope that me not being able to use my camera for 29 minutes didn't go in vain. And I want to thank you. There are some comments here. Let's see here. Resting. Yes. When we don't rest, we're no good to anyone. We're no good to ourselves, right? We only give what we are. And if we don't have rest, compassion, integrity, love, care, and a little bit of ratchetness, because there's times you mess with my family, I'm coming with my machete. I'm coming through. I told you my nickname was Hothead. But it's transcended to a spiritual warrior. Yeah, a spiritual warrior, because sometimes we got to do that. And so I just want to encourage you to care. Just care enough to be aligned with your spirit body. How are you showing up? And is that aligned with your spirit body, your Godhead, your God self? Okay? Thank you for your time. I love you all. And next week, we're going to get it together because now I updated my Chrome. That's all I had to do. So now I'm Tech Hathor-Ra. Okay? Namaste, everyone. Take care. Thank you.